Do you remember DALL-E Mini? Around June of 2022, DALL-E Mini, an AI image generator, went viral after it was discovered by Twitter users. The internet went wild with this program, creating amazing generations such as the Hindenburg in Fortnite, Trek of an AK-47, and probably the most deranged one, gender reveal 9/11. The internet is a place that you can go to.
You're going surfing on the internet.
But a common pattern that I noticed with these generations were the ones involving Sonic the Hedgehog. Sonic has been appropriated in meme culture pretty much since the concept of an internet meme has been around, so I personally saw a lot of generations involving him, like Sonic the Hedgehog robbing a 7-Eleven, Sonic the Hedgehog trail cam footage, and Sonic in jail. Man, Sonic really presented himself like a cryptid in these images, didn't he? Everybody had their fun with it, but eventually I felt that most people kind of got tired of it because, realistically, most of the images that the AI would create were just nonsense images. They came out weird, they weren't very appealing, so the trend lost a lot of steam pretty quickly. But the topic of AI image generation didn't go away, though. In fact, the topic of AI generators is probably more relevant than it's ever been, as we see the rise of more powerful ones pop up. One of these generators is Midjourney, which is a Discord bot that uses text prompts to generate images for you. These images are a lot more coherent and convincing than DALL-E Mini. It has a lot of human artists terrified that eventually they will be replaced, as their skills and efficiency cannot be matched by a neural network. This topic has been tickling my brain for the last little bit, so I wanted to make a general video about my thoughts as a non-artist and gather perspectives around the issue. But while I was researching it and going through the Midjourney website, I found something that caught my eye. And when I decided to delve deeper, I found something that made me feel a very specific sense of dread that I've never felt in my entire life. So let's walk through how I stumbled onto these images in the first place. So first, I thought of the idea of doing an AI image video. So I decided to take a look at the generators available. For the most part, a lot of these generators aren't really worth writing home about. Even though you can sort of get an idea of what the generators are going for, they're very clearly underpowered. I'd say 99% of the generators you could find in a web browser are pretty much useless. That was until I stumbled onto Midjourney. This generator is much more powerful than all the others, and at first it was honestly kind of fascinating to see what it could come up with. But there's issues with it. For one, it just can't do limbs. I don't even know what the hell I'm supposed to be looking at here, and a lot of the time you'll commonly find a bunch of artifacts that are out of place or just don't have relation to the image itself. Or nightmare fuel. There's a lot of nightmare fuel. There's no shortage of nightmare fuel. Jesus goddamn Christ. Oh, and anybody could just put anybody's art into the generator and effectively steal people's style and likeness. That's kind of a thing. So I visited the Midjourney website, which, by the way, I just hate this landing screen. It just screams technology right at your face. It's just so on the nose. Either way, the website has a community feed. As people generate images, they are all collected and presented in one big collage. As I was scrolling down the feed, I noticed an image that caught my attention. In a sea of photorealism and very samey art, if I'm being completely honest, this piece was different. It was so surreal and it didn't make sense. And Sonic was involved in it for some reason. In that moment, I knew that I had to know what else this user generated. So I tried clicking on the user's profile, but I realized that I couldn't. After some digging, I later learned that in order to look at users' galleries, I had to pay for a subscription to Midjourney. So I sat there and thought to myself, am I really going to pay $10 of my hard-earned money that I spent hours of my time to get just so I could see what is up with this weird-ass AI Sonic art solely in the name of content? And the answer was yes. So I paid for the subscription, and after scrolling a bit to find the image again, I clicked on the user's profile. And what I found shook me to my core. This user's gallery is filled to the brim with Sonic AI images, but not just any regular Sonic AI images. These are something different. If you remember when I was talking about those DALL-E Mini images from before, they might have seemed strange and off-putting then, but they pale in comparison to what this person is generating. Now, before I continue with this, I just want to quickly throw out there that I'm not going to mention the person generating these images by name, because in order to use the Midjourney bot, you have to link your Discord account to it. So I'm not particularly interested in potentially doxing somebody's username if they don't want that kind of stuff out there. Continuing on, yeah, I'm genuinely terrified of some of these images, I'm not going to lie. And I'm going to make it your problem. This one gives me Stranger Danger vibes. Like, if you could imagine a face that suits Sonic the worst, it wouldn't look nearly as uncomfortable as the one in this image. It's like a human face, but it still has like yellow eyes for some reason, and just the worst smile. Only the subconscious of a psychopath on DMT could output this sort of image. Only now it's been actually realized, and now you're aware of its existence. I'm so sorry. Looking for a lot of these, this user commonly seems to like placing Sonic in different time periods and settings as well. It's not just 2D art images, there's also some photorealistic images here as well. But just like Sonic's transition to 3D in the games, these images are rough. This one, for example, is something. It honestly reminds me of the live-action Grinch movie from the early 2000s with Jim Carrey in it, because the face makeup actually looks like something that they would do in the 80s or 90s. But those eyes are just awful. And the wrinkles around his face just give off this horrid, uncanny effect. I hate looking at this. Why am I still looking at it? Get that shit out of here. God. Something that you could do on the Midjourney website is check the prompt that a user typed in to get the images. And this one had an interesting process to it. The prompt reads, a 1960s-1962 postcard photograph of Sonic the Hedgehog celebrating Christmas in Hell wearing a Santa hat. This one is probably the most normal Sonic I've seen from the gallery, but I still don't like him. Honestly, this image gives me the impression that Sonic's thinking about how my skin would look on a lampshade. This image is supposed to be Sonic the Hedgehog as Michael Jackson from 1983. And I mean, sure. Really, the problem I'm running into here is just the eyes. I don't know why. Every single one of these images where Sonic's looking at me, it just seems like he always wants to hurt me in some shape or form. Physically and mentally. Mostly mentally. Oh my god, what happened here? This is supposed to be Sonic in the 2002 Willy Wonka movie. First of all, why does Wonka look like a cross between Jack Nicholson and Henry Cavill? And second, why does it look like Sonic has been awake for 2 weeks and is seconds away from defecating on the floor unapologetically? This person is given 4 options to choose from, by the way. I felt that was important to bring up. 4 options to choose when you first put it in a prompt, and then you can upscale one of them. And this is what they decided to upscale. Okay, whatever. Let's just move on. I'm sure it couldn't possibly get worse from here, right? I'm sorry. They used potty training video covers as inspiration, I guess you could call it. And for some reason, beans is involved. I'm just like, how do we get here? Right? Like, what leads to this? What mental illness leads to this? Now, these are pretty weird images, but somehow it actually does get worse from here. By the way, if you have trypophobia, which is the fear of holes, you might want to skip this section of the video. I'll put a timestamp somewhere on screen for you. And if the fact that I had to put that disclaimer up in the first place instills the fear of God in your soul, well, I'd be hard-pressed to judge you for it, because what's coming next made my heart drop. For a certain period of time, this user began generating frankly horrifying creations like this one, with these prompts in particular. Photograph Sonic the Hedgehog made of liver and veins and holes. Rotting autopsy. Sticky red fluid. Sonic wet, slimy, blue, hyper-realistic morgue? When I first saw this image, it almost felt like it was activating my fight or flight response. It's Sonic, but with 3 gaping holes in place of his torso. And from the looks of it, around the openings are circular sets of teeth. God, you seeing this shit?
Yeah.
You're allowing this to happen.
I've done worse.
Yeah, well, you know, I guess I'll check sign. This image follows the same prompts, but with a classroom of children. And I don't know what it is about it, but this gives me the impression that Sonic is almost this otherworldly being that wants to indoctrinate the youth, and it's very displeasing to look at. This image stuck out to me quite a bit because of how eerie it 90s. It's not quite Sonic, but his influence is still there, and him being a part of a vintage medical photo, it's a vibe I don't think I've ever experienced in my life. It almost looks like it belongs as a creepypasta image. This one appears to be Sonic, but as some sort of parasite. I'm not gonna lie, I don't even think I have words for this one. I'm just gonna sweep that one away. Let's clean up the mess. Let's get that out of here. I'm gonna stop putting up those images now because, well, honestly, some of the other ones that I found would probably get this video age restricted, and I'm pretty sure I've already ruined your day, so there's that. Before I end this video, there is one more trend that I wanted to touch on from this user, and this trend is, in my opinion, the most off-putting. Now, this trend is hard to describe, but there's something so disconcerting about it that it stood out to me like a sore thumb. And it's the images where Sonic is within the same universe as humans. Now, regardless of your opinion on AI image generators, they are oddly proficient at placing characters realistically in the same physical space. And they shouldn't be that good at it for this very reason. These images are otherworldly. Sonic is everywhere, and no one seems to acknowledge this. Sonic isn't just an invention from the early 90s, he's also an icon from as far back as the 60s. And it's weird. Sonic is just an accepted part of life, but he's not just confined to TV either. He also has branded medical equipment. Branded medical equipment in a hospital. These images really stood out to me because it almost feels like this is a peek into an alternate dimension, where Sonic is a lot more involved in day-to-day human life than he is in our reality. He's not just a video game character, he's almost omnipresent. Human pop culture seems like it's built around Sonic the Hedgehog. He has significantly more varied merchandise, and his influence seems 10 times more than the influence in this reality. It also begs the question, is Sonic still a character in this reality, or is he a tangible entity? And if it's the latter, then may God help the souls that reside in that universe. Anyways, you want to take a wild guess as to what this user started generating with Midjourney before all the Sonic stuff? I'll give you a few seconds. With all that context, just ending, what do you think they generated? You're wrong! You did not guess gigantic baby bottles towering a kilometer tall specifically! There is no higher power. They wouldn't let this happen. They wouldn't allow this to continue.